normal to accept, but then start thinking of certain things and wanting closure, which makes me needing to have acceptance again? That's a good question. So here's the thing about acceptance, right? Remember, I told you, you got to grow into it, right? So there are going to be parts where you like, you know what? I think I'm good. Then tomorrow something may come up and you like, you know what? I need answers, right? That's normal, right? That's the roller coaster. That's the up and down. This is not linear, y'all. I wish it was linear, but it can be like this. But this is where doing the work, the hard work comes in. One of the things that I think is very important is understanding, especially when it comes to closure, right? Because some of us want an answer from the person who hurt us, and we want them to be honest. We want them to actually be someone that they never been before. And see, doing the work you have to get to a place of accepting that you may not get the closure from them in a manner in which you think you should. Because sometimes we have an expectation on receiving a specific type of closure. We feel like I deserve it. Sometimes we feel like we need it to be released. However, acceptance is realizing, or getting to that, or growing into acceptance is realizing that I may not get the closure in the manner in which I wanted to. You know what? I'm going to tell y'all something. Some of you all been disrespected so bad where that is the closure. That's the closure. That's just not the closure you want it to be. See, this is the hard part about being a coach. This is not me being mean. This is just me being honest. You know what? The disrespect was the closure. Them leaving you for somebody else, if that was your story, that was the closure. You may not ever get the answer. I'm not saying you will, but I wouldn't wait to get it from them. The goal is to really seek your own closure. Because I'm going to tell you something. If I waited on my ex to give me closure on certain things, let's just say I'll still be waiting, and I've been divorced for 14 years. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just telling you it's worth it. And so you may find yourself saying, you know what? As I'm thinking about certain things, because you got to think, if you've been attached to somebody for decades, you got to give yourself time to grieve. You got to give yourself time to grow into this. For some of you, it may take a while, but it may be incrementally. So here's the thing. Let's just say 6 months from now, it may be some things that you might still be triggered by, but you may not be triggered in the exact manner that you were 6 months ago. Healing is compounded. Moving beyond this is compounded. It's not tomorrow. It just doesn't necessarily work like that. I know you want it to, because you're like, man, if I can just get past this and just get to where I want to be, but this is what you got to go through in order to get there. And so, yes, you're going to think about certain things. It's going to be certain things you're going to want the why on from them. Like, why did they do that? How could they just be? And you know what? Here's the thing about getting the proper closure. It takes ownership from that person, meaning that this person now has to be held accountable for being honest with you. Everybody ain't ready for that kind of truth. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do that something is wrong with you. It takes courage to give closure. It takes maturity to give closure. Everybody ain't ready for that, because that means that I got to now be honest and accountable for me. I'm going to be honest with you all. Most people don't like to help be accountable for anything. It's easy to run. It's easy to avoid. It's easy to act like nothing happened. It's not right. However, in learning how to realize that a lot of what people do has a lot to do with their own self-development or lack of, then you can start learning how to free yourself. We have to stop internalizing what other people do as an indicator of our value and our worthiness. A lot of this has a lot to do with their own experiences. I realized that how I move was based on my narrative, on how I was, on how I grew up. And so a lot of the time when we step outside and realize, you know what? This really ain't got nothing to do with me in terms of how they function. This got a lot to do with them and maybe their upbringing, their relationships with their parents, or non-existent relationship with their parents. It could have been some trauma that they never unpacked. I mean, we can go down a rabbit hole about this, right? But the point I'm trying to indicate is that we got to stop believing that because they don't approach us in a way that we think they should, that means that, you know what, it must have been something that I did. No, sometimes it's not necessarily something you did. Sometimes it's just where they are in their own growth and development. And everybody is not going to it. It takes a lot for people to say, you know what, I messed up and I'm sorry, and really mean that. Not saying that they may not ever do it, but I wouldn't wait around for them to do it. Time is precious. The last thing you want to do is give somebody that type of authority and control over your life and how you move. Meaning that I need them to free me. No, you don't. I think there's power in an apology. Don't get it twisted, y'all. I believe there's power in the sincerity of apology. I really do. But I'm also equally aware that everybody will not do that.